Now, in the last hour, the BBC has been told that Boris Johnson has agreed to stand down as Conservative Party leader. He will remain Prime Minister until the autumn to allow the Conservatives to choose a replacement as leader. Mr Johnson is expected to make a public statement in the next few hours. We will, of course, cross to number 10 to get that statement. Let's get the thoughts now of Anthony Mangnall, the Conservative MP for Totnes, who joins us here at the moment. Get the facts straight here. Anthony, you first submitted your letter, was it way back in February?
It was indeed, yes.
What made you do that in the first place? What was your feeling?
Listen, I was very clear at the time that when I came into politics, it was about integrity, it was about honesty, and it was about going in a conservative direction with our policy. And I'm afraid that because of Boris, I didn't think that was the case in any of those instances. And so therefore, I felt that it was my duty and my right as an elected member of Parliament to submit that letter, and that's what I did.
And the last 36 hours or so have been absolutely extraordinary, clearly, Anthony. One might probably say unprecedented in British politics, certainly in my lifetime. What did you think when you first heard what started all this off, the resignations of Sajid Javid and also the Chancellor?
I mean, you know, they are two very principled individuals. I think they were right to resign, and I'm afraid I think what started this all off is the Prime Minister failing to recognise that we all have to uphold a certain standard, and that's where it comes to, really, for me. I'm deeply disappointed we're in this situation. I'm now looking forward to whoever comes next to helping rebuild the party, rebuild that trust with people across the country, and delivering on some of the policies that I think will really make a difference, but also help people through the cost of living crisis.
And do you think damage has been done by the events of the last 36 hours, by the Prime Minister hanging on, gripping on to power for as long as he possibly could?
Yes, he's behaved shambolically.
That's a blunt statement. Have you, or would you face him? Would you pass on these comments? I mean, when was the last time you saw him?
I think I'm not on the top of his list to speak to at any point, but listen, he has behaved badly. Again, you know, you can't, and I am saying it publicly, so if I were to bump into him, I would say exactly the same. There is a point here. You know, we have to respect what colleagues think and what the majority think, but also how our constituents view us and how the country views us. And unfortunately, I don't think in any of those instances he's done that. And it is a shame. You know, there was so much promise and so much opportunity to do so much in 2019, and unfortunately, I think he's I could be rather rude, but he's washed that all away.
Can he or should he remain till autumn in that case?
Well, that's that's quite an interesting question. It will depend on how quickly the leadership contest goes. Now, if the 1922 committee decides that in short order we can do a quick election in terms of within MPs to get to the final two before you go to the membership of the Conservative Party, then that's absolutely possible that we could have this done and dusted by the end of August. It just depends on how many runners and riders there are, and it depends on how long it will take to get to those final two. But I would imagine what we need to do, because there are so many significant issues going on, we need to make sure that we're still governing across all departments, but also getting on with the leadership contest, and that needs to be done pretty quickly, is my opinion.
Would you rather then see him resign as Prime Minister today, not just as leader of the Conservative Party, and Dominic Raab take over as an interim Prime Minister?
I mean, the bigger question is who is able to actually fill those ministerial positions. Now, can a caretaker Prime Minister be able to do that? I'm not sure they can. So my guess here, and I've been right on a few occasions, is that actually I suspect Dominic Raab will have to take over, and I think he probably should, because otherwise it's next to impossible to form a government, or form an interim government for that matter.
And who would you like to be the next long-term Prime Minister?
Good question. I mean, I want to see someone who's able to actually focus on the economic policies that we as Conservatives believe in. I want to make sure that we can see tax cuts come through, business corporation tax reduced, sensible Conservative policies being put across. And I think there are going to be a number of runners and riders. But I'm particularly interested to see what Ben Wallace does, what Jeremy Hunt does, what Rishi Sunak might do, and potentially what Nadhim Zahawi comes forward to do. But the question is, at the moment, is who are the runners and riders? We don't actually know yet, and that's we'll find out out in the next 24 hours who they are, and I'm looking carefully at who they are, and I'll also be listening very carefully to my constituents and to my association as to what they're looking for in the next Prime Minister.
Yeah, I mean, I believe Ben Wallace is really popular amongst constituency parties. Rishi Sunak also has his supporters as well, of course, and he will be one of the front runners. I wonder, though, Anthony, do you think at a time when we're going through this cost of living crisis that Rishi Sunak could be Prime Minister, given he's got such enormous personal wealth? Will people believe that he understands what they're going through?
I think you have to look back and see what Rishi did when he was Chancellor during the pandemic. You know, the furlough scheme was the most generous scheme in the world. It saved 11 million livelihoods. You don't need to take my word for that. That's what the head of one of the unions was saying the other day. You know, it's not about his own personal background. It's about his ability to deliver policies that are going to make huge differences to people. And I think that's exactly what he did during the pandemic. You know, when the chips were down, he made the tough calls and got people through, you know, one of the most difficult situations that we've ever faced. So I have to say, I think he's a very good politician. I think he's very able, and I think he certainly understands what people have gone through and what needs to be done to make sure we can get the economy back on track.
Okay, just looking at the future, are you still happy on the backbenches, or will the plush velour of the front coax you forward?
Not up to, you're so nice to even think that. Listen, I maybe this is rightly or wrongly, I've made a bit of a name for myself as being rebellious and standing up for the things that I think need to be said to government and speak truth to power, and also to stand up on behalf of my constituents. And I do want to continue to do that. I might just also add that I'm 32. I'm not entirely sure that ministerial office should be given to a 32-year-old. So I'm quite happy sitting on the back benches, doing my best, working for the constituents of Totnes and South Devon, and trying to get the best for them. And I said it in a speech the other day. I love what I do, and I love being able to represent an amazing part of the world. And it's a terrific honour, and I'll do it as long as people will allow me.
The younger was 28, wasn't he, when he was running the entire country?
No, he was much younger. He was 24, I think.
24. Sorry, yes, I'll get my facts right.
Yeah,
exactly.
I'm totally past it.
Yeah, clearly nearly retirement. Anthony, good to speak to you as always. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate it.